Hi everyone, as per Automobile here. Finally, we have reached 100 subscribers. Cheers to all of you. Without your support, this would be impossible. In this special episode, we will discuss about one of the most important automotive technology, which is the cooling system. We will discuss about its necessity, types of cooling system, their working principle, their advantages as well as disadvantages, and the components. Now, before starting this video, let me inform you that we have also started a Facebook page of Aspire Automobile. So do visit it and hit the like button. Link of the page is given in description below. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to Aspire Automobile. So, without getting any further delayed, let's start. First, we will discuss about the necessity of the cooling system. Now, in IC engines, chemical energy is transformed into heat energy, which at the end is transformed into mechanical energy. Now, the heat generated during combustion process is distributed in such a way that 25% of the heat is lost to cylinder walls, 30% heat is lost in exhaust gas, 10% heat is lost in friction, radiation, misfiring, etc. At last, the heat used for doing work is only about 35% roughly. It is seen that quantity of heat absorbed by cylinder wall is considerable, and if this heat is not removed from the cylinders, it would result in pre-ignition of charge. Moreover, the lubricant can also burn away, thereby causing the seizing of the engine. Henceforth, it is obvious that suitable means must be provided to dissipate this excess heat from the cylinder walls, so as to maintain the temperature below certain limits. That's where the idea of cooling system is introduced. Now, we will discuss about types of cooling system. There are basically two types of cooling system used in automobile engines. One is air cooling system and second one is water, or to be precise, liquid cooling system. Liquid cooling or the water cooling system can also be subdivided into two types. One is thermosiphon system and the second one is pump circulation system. First, we will discuss about the air cooling system, which is also the most basic type of cooling system. The air cooling process is accomplished utilizing the convection process of heat transfer. If continuous current of air is flew over the heated metal surface, in this case the combustion chamber, heat will dissipate in the atmosphere. It depends on four basic features. First, surface area of heated metal. Second, flow rate of air. Third, temperature difference between the heated surface and air. And fourth, thermal conductivity of the metal. Now, for effective cooling of the surface area of heated metal which is in direct contact with air should be increased. This is done by using fins over the cylinder barrels. Fins are either casted as an integral part of the cylinder barrel or separate finned barrels are inserted over the cylinder barrel. Sometimes, to further increase the contact area, baffles are used also. Now, for better heat conductivity, copper and steel alloys are used. As for usage, motorbikes from lower range to medium range use air-cooled engine, whereas racing motorcycles and high-performance bikes use liquid-cooled engine for optimum cooling. There are some advantages and specific disadvantages of air cooling system. The advantages are following. First, the engines will be lighter because of the absence of radiator cooling jackets and the coolant. Second, it can be operated in extreme climates where the water may freeze. Third, it can be useful in areas where there is shortage of water, like in desert. And fourth, maintenance is much easier for an air-cooled engine. Main disadvantages of the air-cooled system are Even cooling all round the cylinder is not always possible. Hence, distortion of the cylinder takes place. And also, air-cooled engines are more noisy because of the absence of the cooling water, which acts as a sort of sound insulator. Next, we will discuss about the thermosiphon cooling system. It is a liquid cooling system which is very simple and was used in many early automobiles up to about 1940 and is obsolete now. As you can see, it consists of a radiator connected to the engine through flexible hoses. In this system, circulation of water is obtained from the difference in densities of the hot and cold regions of cooling water. That's why it gets the name thermosiphon. Now, let's discuss about its working principle. The circulating water gets heat from the engine cylinders, thereby cooling the same. The absorbed heat in the water is then dissipated in the atmosphere through the radiator, using the conduction and convection method of heat transfer. Thereby, the circulating water becomes cold by the time it reaches the collecting tank, which is at the bottom part of the radiator. After the water is heated again, it is circulated again, and this process continues. The rate of heat transfer is directly proportional to the rate of water circulation. Some of the thermosiphon system also used cooling fans to increase this rate of cooling. These fans, as you can see on your screen, were driven by belt and pulley by the crankshaft. The thermosiphon system has its own advantages and disadvantages. For advantages, first, as you can see on your screen, this system is very simple. Second, the system has low initial cost. However, the list of the disadvantages of the thermosiphon system is a bit longer. First, the cooling is slow due to the fact that coolant flow is maintained by natural convection only. Therefore, to be efficient, the system has to be big. Second, in this system, radiator header tank must be located higher than the top of the cylinder coolant jackets, which is no more possible for modern day bodies. Third and last point, a minimum level of coolant has to be maintained. If the coolant falls below this level, continuity of the flow will break eventually. Now, we will discuss about the pump circulation liquid cooling system. This system is used in every modern vehicles such as cars, trucks, buses, etc. Only difference of this system with thermosiphon system is the addition of a water pump, which is used for the circulation of coolant, and a thermostat to control the flow of the coolant. Now, let's start the working principle of this system. In your screen right now is a schematic diagram of the complete system. There are three types of coolant hose pipes denoted in three different colors. The active ones are denoted in orange and blue color, whereas the inactive one is denoted in black color. Now, the coolant uses the bypass line to circulate while the thermostat is still closed. This duration is known as the warming up of engine. It is extremely necessary because if the engine is not warmed up properly, it will be overcooled and eventually will not able to ignite the air-fuel mixture properly. This process goes on until the temperature of the coolant reaches about 80 to 100 degrees Celsius. As the engine reaches the operating temperature, the thermostat valve slowly opens to pass the heated coolant to the radiator. Notice, the color of the coolant hose pipe coming out of the engine is now red, denoting the engine is warmed up and the thermostat valve is now opened. The bypass line is closed now. This heated coolant enters the radiator and dissipates heat by the convection method. When it is cooled, it is again pumped inside the engine to continue this process by the water pump. Now, a coolant reservoir is also provided to store coolant when the pressure inside the cooling system is very high. More on that later. Now, we will discuss about the components of the liquid cooling system. So the first component of the discussion is radiator. The function of radiator is to ensure close contact of hot coolant coming out of the engine with outside air, so as to ensure high rate of heat transfer from coolant to air. It consists of an upper tank, core and the lower tank, also known as the collector. Besides, an overflow pipe in the header tank and a drain pipe in the lower tank are provided. Hot coolant from the engine enters the radiator at the top and is cooled by the cross flow of air while flowing down the radiator. The coolant collects in the collector tank, from where it is pumped to the engine for cooling. As you can see on your screen right now, there are two types of radiator cores. One is tubular type core and another one is cellular type core. In tubular type core, the coolant flows through the tube and air passes around them. Whereas in the cellular type core, the air passes through the tube and coolant flows in the spaces in between them. Out of these, tubular cores are mostly used. The materials of radiator should be resistant to corrosion and possess high thermal conductivity, apart from having adequate strength. For these reasons, copper, aluminium and brass are used as the materials of the radiator. Next component is radiator pressure cap, which covers the radiator filler neck to form an airtight joint, due to which the coolant is maintained at some pressure higher than the atmosphere. Due to this increase in pressure, the boiling point of the coolant is raised. Henceforth, the advantages of the pressure cap are: first, the engine can operate at higher temperature without boiling the coolant. Second, preparation of air-fuel mixture is improved at the higher operating temperatures. And third, with sealed cap, loss of coolant due to evaporation is also prevented. Now, you can see a schematic diagram of pressure cap on your screen, containing a pressure valve and a vacuum valve. If the pressure in the system exceeds a certain permitted value, which is near about 50 to 100 kPa, the pressure valve opens, releasing the excess amount of pressure, and it also stores a certain amount of coolant in the coolant reservoir. On the other hand, if vacuum is created inside, the vacuum valve draws coolant from the reservoir to avoid collapse of the reservoir. It has to be remembered never to open pressure cap when the radiator is still hot, because if the pressure cap is removed, the boiling point of the coolant will drop suddenly due to low pressure in the system. This causes the boiling of coolant, which may spill over and burn anyone standing nearby. Next component for discussion is the water pump, which is the heart of the pump circulation cooling system. The pump can be driven either by the crankshaft by a V-belt or by an electrical motor, which is controlled by the ECU or the electronic control unit. The coolant enters from the inlet, throws outward due to the centrifugal force. This operation is accomplished by the vanes fixed on the impeller inside the pump casing. Thus, the kinetic energy is transformed into pressure energy, and this high pressurized coolant leaves the pump from the outlet port. Next component is thermostat. Now, it has to be remembered that only optimum cooling of the engine is desirable. Overcooling results in a deterioration of engine efficiency. So, to keep a tight control over the cooling, a thermostat is used, which automatically keeps the cooling water temperature at predetermined value. As stated earlier, it also helps the engine to reach the operating temperature. A coolant temperature sensor is used in modern vehicles which senses the temperature of the coolant and sends this data to ECU to maintain optimum performance of the vehicle. Now, we will discuss about the medium of heat transfer, which is the coolant. In earlier days, only water was used as coolants, but the main problem about it is that in the cold climate, below a certain temperature, the water will get frozen. As the volume of water increases by 10% when converted into ice, this can eventually result in the damage of the cooling system. To resolve this issue, the coolant which is used in modern vehicles is a mixture of ethylene glycol and water, mixed in a proportion of 1:1. Ethylene glycol works as the antifreeze which prevents the freezing of the coolant in cold temperature. The last component we will discuss about is the radiator cooling fan. Now, in most of the vehicles, the radiator fan is driven by the V-belt connected with the crankshaft pulley. In some vehicles, the fan is driven by the means of a separate electric motor which is supplied with power directly from the battery. It is controlled by a thermoswitch. In heavy commercial vehicles, the fan is not directly driven by belt, but is driven through a fluid coupling. The spacing between the rotors of the coupling is controlled by the temperature of the cooling system. Hence, the temperature controls the speed of the cooling fan. That's it for today. If you have come this far, I'm sure you have liked it. Do share it with your friends, because knowledge is always worth sharing. Do subscribe to our channel. Goodbye. See you again.